Hello and welcome to the Prog Analyst. Today we're going to be talking about the Radiohead song Paranoid Android. I know that there's some question as to whether or not Radiohead is prog. I think for this song though, it's pretty clearly a prog song. Our song starts out with an intro that's an instrumental version of what we're going to hear in our verse. We're in C Dorian and our chords are 1 minor, this is flat 3, diatonic to C Dorian, this is our 4 chord, 5 minor, we have an E minor 7 flat 5, which would make this the 3 minor 7 flat 5 in C Dorian instead of the flat 3. The way this is working is we have our G minor, and then we put an E as the root underneath the G minor to make it an E minor 7 flat 5. So the upper structure is the same. G minor can be played over this whole thing. It's just that the bass note is changing from G to E, which I think is a little unusual considering that we're in a minor mode. Like I said, these chords continue underneath the verse, and here we get our verse melody. The melody takes 4 measures, and then there are 2 measures of interlude in between before we get to the second melodic phrase of the verse. We start on the note C, move up to this B flat all the way up here, and then move down to E natural over the E minor 7 flat 5 chord. Then, like I said, there's a 2 measure interlude here, and then we repeat that phrase again, just with different lyrics. Then we get to our chorus, where the lyrics just repeat "what's that" over and over again. What I like about the chorus is that it's a 3 measure harmonic pattern. It goes from G minor to F major to E7. And if you look at the part that the guitar is playing, it's repeatedly playing these D and E notes in each one of those measures. But what changes is that this first note goes from being a B flat, which is a chord tone of G minor, to A, which is a chord tone of F major, and to G sharp, which is a chord tone of E7. It's the third each time. B flat is the third of G minor, A is the third of F major, and G sharp is the third of E major. Even though these D and E notes are consistent, the bass note is moving down by either a whole step or a half step, and that first note that the guitar is playing is also moving down by a half step to move with the harmony. This long note on the word "that" is also a major 7, but then it actually becomes the 1 once the chord moves to E7 underneath it. We get an extra measure of E7 at the end of the chorus, and this E7 naturally wants to lead to A. What I think is interesting is that this E7 actually goes to C minor, which seems like a very strange resolution. How does E7 go to C minor? But I think it actually makes some sort of sense. Normally our E7 is going to want to go to A, whether that's A major or A minor. And the relative major of A minor is C major. And of course, the parallel minor of C major is C minor. So it's like we're going to the parallel minor of the relative major of where we're expecting to land. Think of it like in the key of A minor. Both A minor and C major would have tonic functions. It makes sense that E7 might want to deceptively resolve to C major, but then we deceive the listener one more time by going to C minor instead of C major. Although the rhythm of our second verse melody is the same, the notes are different. Instead of moving up like we did before, it starts out by moving down, starting on C and then going down to A, before climbing back up to D, and then coming all the way back down to G. Overall, it's a downward moving phrase. The following phrase starts by moving up. Not as much as we do in the first verse, but up to this E flat, and then eventually moves down. We also have an extension of this last phrase. Instead of just ending here like it did the previous 3 times that we heard this melodic phrase, in the first verse and in the second verse, it instead is extended and spills over into the downbeat of the chorus. Ultimately, this phrase, like the one preceding it, starts on C and moves all the way down to G. It just takes a little bit longer to get there because the phrase is extended going into the end of the verse into the chorus. Our chorus is pretty much the same the second time that we hear it, but at the very ending, instead of resolving to that C minor, it resolves the way it's supposed to A minor. And our riff just kind of moves between A minor and A flat, which is just the note right below it. You could also think of the A flat as G sharp and think of it as being in harmonic minor, but I prefer to think of it as A flat because with the A flat and the C, it sort of creates a major sound. Plus, in the 7/8 instrumental part following this riff, we do get an A flat chord. We get C, A flat, and B flat. Of those chords, C, as we've discussed, is diatonic to A minor, and then these other 2 would be modal interchange chords. But overall in this section, we just have a bunch of major chords that are moving by either whole step or half step, like this chromatic part that happens at the end of this little instrumental section. We have a couple vocal phrases that follow the notes and rhythm of the riff pretty closely. And this section just kind of repeats a couple times, getting more and more intense as it goes, until it breaks out into this crazy solo at the ending. It's a very noisy solo that very unexpectedly resolves to F at the ending. This F also is, though, diatonic to both A minor and C Dorian. So it is a common chord that connects both the keys of the song. We're moving from A minor in this riff solo section back to our original C Dorian. We get a much slower section right after that crazy solo, and the chords here make a good bit of sense. We have 1 minor. This is our 5 chord in first inversion. We have 5 minor in first inversion. It's just the bass is moving down by half step, so it's a pretty common cliche. And it continues to move down by half step to go to the A chord, which is an A major chord. This acts as the relative 5 chord to where we're going next, our 2 minor. So this is just the 5 of D minor. That happens again, the 5 of D minor, our 2 chord. And then our bass moving down again, the cliche returns. So we go from D minor to D minor over C. B flat would be our flat 7 chord. This is our 4 chord in first inversion. Again, the bass is just moving down. 5 minor, 4. And then here we have that 5-7 of 6, which actually does resolve the way that we typically expect it to, and it goes to A. It actually goes to A major here. But this moment of brightness doesn't last long because we suddenly and abruptly start the progression over again by moving to C minor. And our vocal melody is moving down, just as the lyrics are saying rain down. If we look at just this 2-note fragment, it's just rain down, with rain being a half step higher than the down that follows it. We can think of this as our sort of starting fragment. This is just a translation of that down a half step. It's again a half step motion between rain and down. It's just starting on a different note. We see that again in the following measure. So every time we get this rain going to down, it just moves down a half step. And then this is extended a little bit when we add the on me that follows it. Then we have from a great height, a new bit of melodic information. We repeat that again. And then this height is another new piece of melodic information, which also gets repeated again. That all happens again with a little bit more flourishing on the melody. And then we add this counter melody that for the most part is just a little 3-note pattern. It goes up, then down. And then we just keep on moving those notes around so that they always fit whatever chord is happening underneath it. Again, this has a downward motion overall that corresponds with the idea of the raining down and the really melancholy mood of this section. Then at the end of the song, it gets considerably faster again and returns to that riff that we heard before. All instrumental this time, with another crazy, noisy guitar solo over the top. And that's how we end the song. That's my breakdown of Paranoid Android by Radiohead. Thank you for watching. Please like it and share with anyone else who might be interested. If you want to see more of these videos, please subscribe as well. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else about the song you enjoy or find interesting that I might not have mentioned. Thanks again.